Okay, well, remember how we were talking about how June was going to be an annoying month?
Feels like that's the promise that keeps on being kept.
Yeah, June has kept its promise as being a very annoying month politically, and I believe that promise will extend into July. I kind of want to talk about the infrastructure package and its changing forms, Alyssa. When President Biden announced his infrastructure proposal, I was pleasantly surprised because of because of some of the things that were included in it, which are infrastructure but haven't been thought of as infrastructure traditionally, like bolstering the care economy. The care economy enables people to go to work, and it also employs millions of Americans and often keeps those Americans in a state of poverty or near poverty due to the low wages that it pays. So supporting the care economy, I believe, is super important to stimulating the economy and getting us to a position where we have a functional middle class again. Something kind of discouraging happened. We're trying to make deals with Republicans, and I know people love to harp on bipartisanship, but part of the deal is that the first part of Biden's infrastructure plan that will be put forth to lawmakers is just, quote unquote, and I'm using this word, which a Biden advisor said on cable news this week, traditional infrastructure. So like roads and bridges and broadband. We all know the great American tradition of broadband. Alyssa, what do you make of the infrastructure package being divided and into kind of more traditional roads and bridges infrastructure and the other infrastructure that was always important but never given enough time?
I mean, girl, I don't know. The whole thing is really disappointing, I guess. Frustrating is another word. Because here's the thing. By separating them out, it really does give people like Mansion and Cinema cover. Like, here, look, we're doing this. I mean, and like, Erin, just to, like we love to do, sidebar, tangent, whatever. I mean, how hard is it to get some fucking bipartisan bullshit bill? Like, why did it take any time at all? They were negotiating this bill as actual bridges were crumbling. So that's one thing. But now that you have bifurcated, you've hived off the care economy stuff into something that progressive Democrats and that President Biden will say, you know, they will try to do through reconciliation, which, Erin, I use the word reconciliation all the time, but I thought that it would be worth explaining exactly what the reconciliation process is, how it's used. And what budget reconciliation is, it's a parliamentary procedure of Congress to expedite the passage of certain budgetary legislation. It can be done without a supermajority. It just needs a simple majority, 51 or 50 plus the vice president to break the tie. And what is significant about reconciliation is that it prohibits sort of policy changes that are extraneous to the budget. And this year, the Senate parliamentarians said there could be two reconciliation bills, one that deals with fiscal year 2021 and one that deals with fiscal year 2022. So, great. So now we have this bill that is going to focus on all the things that you and I are really interested in. However, you still need Mansion and Cinema. And so they have both said that they're open to reconciliation, but Joe Manchin has said, 5 or 6 trillion, I don't know that I can do that. Maybe 1 or 1.5, maybe 2. So the problem is it still puts, at this point, very moderate centrist people who were not on board with this in the first place, a bit in the driver's seat to get this done.
The thing that really bothers me about this is that all of the proposals in the American Families Plan that would be put through via reconciliation, if at all, are massively popular. So if they were to pass, all of these chuckle fucks that are actively acting like, I don't know, would be trying to take credit for it. Just like Republicans with the COVID bill. And it makes me so angry because it's like I don't care where you live. I don't care how you vote. The child tax credit is going to be useful for a ton of people who live there. And if Democrats don't make it a more permanent thing, that will expire in the middle of campaign season for midterms.
as we've said before too, these programs that are part of the care economy package are not making America the best country in the world. They're literally lifting us up from being the last place in the world that cares about its citizenry.
I completely agree. It's embarrassing how little protections are in place for people who are responsible for care for other family members, whether that's parents, whether that's people taking care of a person that is disabled, whether that's people taking care of elderly parents. Like we neglect these people to an embarrassing degree. And that category, people who are caretakers, is massive in this country. The fact that we have just decided that they can keep on taking on more and more and more, like people are going to reach a breaking point. And most of those people are women. And I don't think it really is frustrating to watch all these like really wealthy people in Washington who will never suffer a consequence for not having maternity leave. Like, what is Joe Manchin going to do if he can't take maternity leave? I don't know, continue to live his life and not think about it. Like, what's Senator Sinema going to do without universal pre-K? Continue to not think about it and dress like a doll. As you say, Alyssa. I just think that it's like all of the people who are responsible for fixing these problems are completely insulated from the problems themselves. And that is such a huge reason nothing ever gets done.
I just feel like this is some real fucking low-hanging fruit that we're refusing to pick up. And by we, I don't mean me and you.
Yeah. And then, to continue that metaphor, if eventually the fruit's just going to get rotten and drop to the ground and stink up the joint. And nobody wants to clean up a yard full of rotten mangoes.
No, because you know what that brings? Critters that you don't want in your yard.
And critters, smell. It's way better to just pick the low-hanging fruit, maintain things, rather than wait for things to become a disaster. And on that note, I want to talk about the second story that we've both been thinking about a lot this week, and that is the collapse of a condo building in Surfside, Florida. Alyssa, why has this story impacted you so much?
Erin, I think that we are used to seeing pretty terrible stories. Every week there are mass shootings on the front pages of newspapers. There's just really bad stuff. But to me, this one is, first to imagine the horror that, we've heard from firsthand accounts of people who escaped the building, the horror of trying to get out, the people who were helping neighbors, people who knew to leave their front doors open so that people would know they had gotten out, so that people could see that like their balconies had fallen off. And I think that this is just so tragic because this feels like we will come to understand at some point this was in probably many ways preventable. The reports that have come out from engineer inspections that were done 3 years ago in 2018 indicating the sort of exponential damage being done by not making the repairs that were needed. And that this was all caught up in these weird processes, like these condo boards knew. And there was it feels like what you and I were texting about earlier, that it feels sort of like emblematic of a lot of what's going on in America in some ways, that we all see the change that needs to happen, but no one can figure out how to get there. And now we just have, 159 people, I think, are still, as of recording, unaccounted for. And the catastrophe of this building that collapsed onto itself. So as we listen to people who want to understand like why they're not finding more people faster, why, families want answers, which we all would, is that this is people who were down in Haiti during the earthquake in 2010, people who have seen some of the worst catastrophes like this are saying this is the worst they've ever seen. And unfortunately, I think that sort of the more we understand, the more graphic the information we get is, the more you're like, fuck, like these poor people and these families just don't have answers. And I think that's the hardest part. It just makes me cry for them. Everything from the people who don't have the answers to the son who found his grandmother's birthday card on the sidewalk, you know, when he was looking for her. And I mean, it's just, to people who can't find their pets, I mean, it's all just, it's fucking terrible. And there are no answers soon. And that just feels like an entirely different form of torture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine how it would feel to be somebody waiting for one of the unaccounted for people. I can't imagine what it would be like to be one of the people going through the rubble, which, like, if you look at images of it and videos of it, it just looks like a pile of like concrete dust. It is really, really daunting. And they've had to deal with fire and wind and weather. And it would be horrible to be a person directly involved in this. One thing that I think of as we are moving forward with the story is when there's stories like this that are tragedies, singular tragedies that resulted from something systemically wrong. Every time we try to figure out what is wrong in the system, I feel like there's a kind of knee-jerk, don't politicize it type thing. But here's the thing, don't politicize it has become a blanket dismissal of trying to find and identify a root reason that is bigger than just the singular thing that happened. Politicizing it is important because you have to politicize it. Otherwise, this is going to happen again. We can't just treat this like it is one thing that happened as a freak accident in one place. Clearly, it happened as a result of a set of conditions that affect a bunch of other places, a bunch of other buildings, a bunch of other people. And the only way to get to the bottom of it is to honestly address why does the condo board have so much power? Why does the state of Florida have so little power to enforce repairs on buildings like this? You know, is that what small government is? Is that just not enforcing anything and enabling tragedies like this to happen? Why are people so hesitant to spend money on preventive repairs? And, you know, all of this sort of, you know, as we were talking about the infrastructure bill, it feels like there's a through line between the collapse of a building and like the literal collapse of pieces of infrastructure in this country. Like, spending money to prevent something isn't necessarily fun or sexy, but it's necessary because it's way better to spend money to prevent something than it is to spend money to clean something up.
So true. And to your point, you know, when you looked at some of the paperwork that has been surfaced, the people in this building, from the smallest apartment to the largest apartment, would have had to contribute anywhere from $30,000 to $335,000 to move ahead with some of this stuff. And so you're like, how does that even make sense? Like, how is that fucking possible?
Right. Yeah. Like, imagine you live in a building and they're like, here's a bill for $30,000. Like, you probably weren't planning on an unexpected $30,000 expense during, you know, the course of your life. And I don't think that should be something that necessarily falls completely in the, it seems like there needs to be some things worked out. You know,
yeah, exactly.
I've never owned a condo before, but I have to say, it seems like there needs to be a way to force repairs on buildings that are structurally unsound, but there also needs to be a way for people who live in those buildings who aren't necessarily the people at fault for the structural like problems. There needs to be some relief for them, or like some kind of like forgivable loan or something. You know, this didn't work.
And it goes to, you know, I think you are a sage and a highly empathetic person. And last night you said the burden always falls on the people who did nothing to create the problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's always the people who suffer the most directly are the people who didn't create the conditions. Right. And that's just like the way that our society works, and it fucking sucks. And I mean, we were talking about, you know, people who are senators being totally insulated from the consequences of their actions. Like that's literally it. We see it everywhere. This is just a really dramatic, tragic example of people who suffer consequences for problems they didn't cause. And it's just kind of heartbreaking. I don't know. I can't even, it's one of those stories that I can't even think about because it makes me too sad,
Yeah.
you know?
No, totally.
And, you know, and then there's also the climate change of it all, which is, you know, how much of this is something that was exacerbated by changing climate conditions, by more extreme storms. How inhabitable will the entire area of South Florida be in 10 years?
Right.
Like I remember a few years ago interviewing somebody who was a sustainability scientist, which is like people who study climate change and its effect on human civilization started calling themselves, I think it was like climate resilience instead of climate change. They had to rebrand because Republicans don't believe in climate change. So calling it resilience allowed them to continue to get like some respect. I was talking to somebody who said that Miami's plan for post 2030 is like find alternate uses for first floors of buildings. Like there is no,
shit.
There is like there's no plan. And then
that's not a plan.
That is getting flippers is not a plan. You know, buying a raft is not a plan. And it's really crazy. Like right now in the Pacific Northwest where I live in LA, it's fairly normal, but everything around us is in the 110, 115 degree range. Up in Seattle, up in Portland, it is uninhabitable. People will die if they spend too much time outside. Like that's how hot it is.
And it is such a catastrophic swing in temperature that most people, it's like, look, you don't have to be a genius. It's like, oh my God, it's like 115 in Portland. People are buying air conditioners. You're like, well, the power grid's going to fucking collapse soon. And then all of a sudden, brownouts and blackouts because people, you know, because they're putting such strain on the grid. It's like, you guys, you can predict what's going to happen. Why is but why are certain people like, it's fine? It's not fine.
Right. I wonder what it is in human psychology that causes us to prefer being reactive to proactive over and over and over again when we know intuitively that being proactive has better outcomes.
Because, Erin, like you said, the people who are making the laws, who are fighting these decisions, are people who have plenty of air conditioning, and should the grid go out, they have a big enough generator to keep their air conditioning going. So unless you recognize that as a luxury and something that not everybody has, and that everybody should be able to, you know, have a fucking chance, you just kind of keep doing what works for you. So I'd say fuck those people.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, I just had an idea. If I were working in maintenance this is just a joke idea. If I were working in maintenance in the Capitol, I would subtly turn off the air conditioner in the offices of the people in DC who do not believe in climate change. Just because climate change isn't real. This is fine. You don't need AC. You're fine.
That is not a bad joke idea, Erin.
Experience the consequences of climate change, guys. We already built our nation's capital in a hot swamp. Like, it's just going to get worse. So, you know, if climate change isn't real, then maybe you're fine without AC. Tell me how that works for you.
Let us know how your shirts fare.
Ugh, I do not want to see photos of that. That's for sure. This is the part where we take really strong stances on things that don't really matter. I feel petty. Alyssa, do you want to go first?
Sure. So first, my I Feel Petty is related to the podcast today because everyone here has turned their schedules upside down to accommodate me because I'm getting a colonoscopy and I have to cleanse. And here's my thing. How, with all of the fucking accomplishments in this world, the technology, this morning I saw they have planes that can turn into cars and fly in Slovakia. Why can't the cleanse taste better?
I have horrible news for you.
What?
Who's your doctor? Do you know there's pills now?
okay, no, I don't know that there are pills, but I know that I got to drink this shit.
Yeah.
And the instructions come with sucking on a lemon.
Yeah,
God.
no, they have a pill now that you can take.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
well, that's terrific. That's too late for me now. And this is my second one. So one, if you're supposed to get a colonoscopy, the worst part of it is just drinking this stuff, which is like, I'm being an asshole. It's like not that bad. It's just kind of bad. But I really feel like there could be some advancements in
How
this.
does it taste?
In this, like salty mangoes.
That doesn't sound terrible.
That sounds pretty good.
Okay, look, it's better. It's better than when I did it 5 years ago, but still, how does it not just taste like fucking Gatorade at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's medical that feels very archaic. It's like, why are we doing it like this? Like every time they take blood from me, I'm like, do you need every drop of that blood? You know that I hate this, right? Like you could probably make do with less. This fucking sucks. Figure it out. And Elizabeth Holmes set us all back.
Yeah.
Because
She did.
ugh, God, all us needle phobes, really. If I ever see Elizabeth Holmes, I'm gonna really give her a piece of my mind.
Yeah, and all us like low voice females too. I feel very attacked that she trying to imitate us. Whatever.
I think the next tech disruptor that's going to work in like biotech needs to focus, for Alyssa's sake, on making the pre-colonoscopy shake taste better or make the pills more readily available. I think that's probably what we need to do.
You know, my doctor just got an email, Michaela.
I mean, because my husband just went through this, and he's like, yeah, I did the pills. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I feel terrible, Alyssa. I just upended your. I want you. I'm sure you can find something else to be very upset about.
Well, she still has to drink it this
Yeah,
time,
dude,
so-
it's still the rest of my 24 hours.
Okay, so my I feel petty is also medical related this week. I recently went in for an ultrasound for my 20-week scan. And that shit is fascinating, by the way. Like it is the technology, speaking of like the opposite end of technology, what they can do with ultrasounds in like looking at like fetal development is crazy. Like it is, they can like measure the size of the chambers of the heart. They can do all this like cool shit. Here's my thing. If you
Can't
are
improve the taste of her colonoscopy.
no. If you're going to go into neonatology, so if you're going to be a doctor that specializes in reading scans of fetuses and diagnosing health problems on those scans, you should fucking like talking to women. Like that's part of it. Part of being that kind of a doctor is you need to be able to slow down and explain what you're doing to the person who
I just like the
waited-
babies.
Yeah,
I just like looking at babies.
Only babies. Shut up, lady. Just so
I like their little faces, their little
Yeah,
hands. Who are you?
little feet. Shut
Sorry,
up, lady.
I'm assuming who this person was.
Yeah, you're not incorrect. He was gruff. He came in and he was like doing the scan, and he was like, just so you know, like I'm gonna be kind of quiet during the scan. I'd just like to get through it, and I can answer any questions at the end. And I was like, all right. There's a couple points where I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm kind of in the zone right now. I just need to get through this. And I was like, okay. And then at the end.
Quiet, Mom.
I know.
You're really ruining this for me. You're really ruining this moment.
Well, and then at the end, he's like, yeah, everything seems normal. Normal head, normal heart. Those are the things that usually go wrong. All right. And then he like starts leaving the room and he goes, oh, did you have any more questions? He was like rushing me. And it's like, dude, look, I know that you get overscheduled. That's what hospital systems do to doctors so that they can charge the most possible people for insurance. But like, dude, I waited an hour for this 10-minute scan, which is only the second time I've seen my baby. So like, fucking sit down and explain what's happening. Like,
Yeah.
what were you doing changing the colors on the blood flow? What was that doing? Like, how big is it? What kind of developmental things are happening? What is happening to me? And it was just like, dude, if you're going to go into this field, you should probably be better at like taking some fucking time to answer
Bedside
people's
manner.
questions.
Yeah.
Erin, the next time you go in, you should only speak to him in like Top Gun movie quotes.
Yeah.
Just see, because if he's in the zone, maybe he'll understand
Yeah.
if you're like writing checks your body can't cash. I mean, maybe that'll get you somewhere.
Oh my God. Francesca, do you want to go next? What are you feeling petty about this week?
I've had a tweet brewing that I've been wanting to fire off, and I just want to explain it before I do, which is I am jealous of conservative women because of their arms, and my tweet is, I want reactionary arms.
You mean like their physical, like
Yes.
arms, not their guns?
No, yeah, not their weaponry. I don't want their weapons, but I want, and maybe it's only the actual guns you can get from holding guns. But why does like Janine Pirro and Laura Ingraham and like Lara Trump, why do they have like crazy cut, arms? How are they getting these arms? Who's their like QAnon trainer person? I don't know. Like, is it a surgery they're having? They all have like the nice shoulders and the little divot. I can't get that divot. And I'm like, I fucking hate your views, but I want your arms.
It's how you get arms like that from holding up the patriarchy.
It's you have to hold the
That's
patriarchy
it.
up and just
That
small
is it.
movements and a lot of them.
Just jostling Robert Ailes' ball. I'm sorry.
That's a good one. I think that's fair and also very petty. Michaela, do you
So
want to bring us
petty.
home?
Sure. Guys, this is a happy story and a sad story. So, okay. I recently had to leave to go out of town for work, and I had to leave my husband for a while. And none of our problems have ever come from being together, which is amazing. Like during the pandemic, I was like, I married the right guy. Our problems only arise when we're apart. And that's because, well, more specifically, if I leave and he stays home. And here's why. If I take a day to reorganize a kitchen or office drawer or something of that nature, it's not because I like organization. I mean, I do to some degree, but it's because if I don't, my scattered loose meat sandwich brain just can't keep track of anything. So it's really a need, and I need a drawer to be organized for a very long time. Like when I take the time to do it, this needs to hold for 3 to possibly 5 years, maybe 10 years.
Whoa.
That's what needs to happen. That's why I do it. I do it because it's like a remodel of my brain, and it's going into a drawer. And it needs to last. It doesn't need to last 2 weeks. Like 2 weeks is not, if I open a drawer in my kitchen and I come home and it looks like a fucking, toilet at a Sigma Chi frat party. I am thinking of a very specific toilet at a frat party that I went to visit somebody at UMass Amherst. Then I feel under attack. I feel personally assaulted because it's not like, oh, I just love organization. I love to put things in little compartments. It's like, no, this is a real, genuine ADHD need where I need stuff to make sense. I need to know that when I need scissors, they're going to fucking be there, Mm-hmm. And every time I leave home, I come back and it's just like disarray land. And that sounds so petty because that's what this is. I feel petty. I get it, but it's not just, I'm not Monica from Friends. I don't just like order. I absolutely need it to function in our society. And I feel so accosted that somebody just thinks, oh, I'll start putting dish rags, where the pens are.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is one of the quickest ways to feel crazy is to be sharing space with someone who moves things.
Oof.
Like who moves, like you put something somewhere and then you come back and it's been put away, but you don't know where because the other person has moved it. That's I think a cousin.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not for fun. It's not like, there she goes. She's a little mouse organizing our kitchen. It's like, no. I don't have time. I don't have time to look.
Then do
for
you
the-
get asked where everything is? That's the
Yes,
best part. Is
that
when
is exactly what happens, Francesca.
yeah, and then you're like,
100%.
use your eyes.
Oh
Where
my
did you
God.
put it?
Yeah. Do we have any X thing that I'm the only one who eats? I don't know. Why would I know that? Why would that be? You're the only one who buys it. You're the only one who eats it. You're the only one who ever touches it. Why would I have access to that information? Oh man, we could do a whole series of bits around men needing to find things and moving things around. I think that's a very petty but very fair point, Michaela.